Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mini Scroll, the daily internet culture podcast bringing you the biggest stories from social media, the creator economy, and the digital space every Monday through Thursday. I'm your host, Lauren Meisner, the founder of the youth digital media brand Centennial World. Welcome back to Mini Scroll, everyone. Happy Thursday. So just a reminder, there will be a deep dive tomorrow, but there will be no mini scroll on Monday because it is a public holiday in New South Wales, where I live in Australia. And thank you guys so much for all of the questions for the Q&A. I have a lot of questions. I'm really excited to get into them. So that will be live next Friday. All right, guys, let's just get into the stories for today. I'm going to be honest, it was a bit of a light news day, but I still found 3 because that's what we do here. We overachieve here at Mini Scroll. Okay, the first story that I have for you guys is that The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives is getting a season 2. I'm so excited. I don't think any of you guys care as much about this show as I do, but you're along for the ride with me because this show is my everything. Like, I'm obsessed with this show. I'm obsessed with the cast. Every interview that they do on podcasts, I am listening. I am like tuned the fuck in. I am so excited. And apparently they start filming next week, which I think is perfect timing. Since the season just aired, there's probably so many like mixed emotions, different feelings, dynamics between the cast. Like, this is the perfect time to pick up cameras. Plus, Taylor has been posting on TikTok a lot that this breakup or like presumed breakup from Dakota, whatever's going on between them, is like the hardest thing that she's ever gone through. So I think that I'm sure Hulu also wants to like capitalize on this moment as well. So I'm so excited. I mean, we all knew it was going to get a season 2. It's literally the talk of the internet. And I think it was Hulu's most watched premiere, like something like that. It broke some record for the network. So yeah, very exciting. And I just hope it airs like in 2 months. Like I just need it now. The next story that I have for you guys is that ex-users are fighting about if it's ethical to stan Moo Deng. Okay, so earlier this week, a Twitter user at Dogtism posted a thread that went viral criticizing the internet's love of Moo Deng, as they claimed that the Khao Keo Zoo that she lives at in Thailand is unethical. And I understand, like, zoos are typically unethical. However, there is so much cultural context here. There's also just different types of zoos. Like, Jordy and I went on, oh my God, where were we? We went on a famil with a brand maybe like a year and a half ago, and we went to a zoo, quote unquote, but it was actually like an animal conservation park, and it was like open air. Oh my God, it was actually like amazing, and we learned about how they are like rehabilitating and conserving all of these different animals who are sick, abused, endangered. It was an amazing experience. I wish I could remember where we went and who we were with. But anyways, so that is kind of the vibe of this zoo, apparently, that Moo Deng lives at. But first, I'll read you a couple of tweets from Dogtism. So they wrote, "Photos leave more to be desired. The facility is dilapidated, enclosures are subpar, walls caked with dirt. Guests are seemingly allowed to feed and interact with the animals, and I mean all of them." So first of all, Dogtism, have you been to this zoo? How do you know that the facility is dilapidated and the enclosures are subpar just from photos and videos that you see? They also wrote, "Oh, and there's a wild monkey problem too, but that's neither here nor there, I guess." And they snapped photos of monkeys like around the zoo. Oh my God. Okay, so it kept going, but basically this user was calling the zoo like a shithole and that they're exploiting animals. And this set people off, especially Thai people who obviously, like I said, have this cultural context around the zoo and its actual treatment of the animals. So in short, the Khao Keo Zoo in Thailand, where Moo Deng lives, is a state-funded open-air zoo. According to one user, Yami, whose thread is going even more viral than the original thread from Dogtism. Quote, "It is located in a natural forest surrounded by mountains and is largest open zoo in Thailand at 2,000 acres. I mention this because the thread left it out and it seems many people think it's a small, dinky zoo." So the zoo also takes animals from abusive backgrounds and apparently, treats its animals really well. And on the point of having a monkey problem, Thai users are like, yeah, well, like wild monkeys are the same as like wild squirrels in North America. Like they're literally just everywhere. They're like, what's an Australian equivalent? Like bin chickens. So basically, everyone is kind of banding together saying like whether you think all zoos are unethical or not, like this particular zoo is really important for conservation. It's not like the typical zoo that you think of when you think of, a North American zoo. And because of all of this, the original poster who started this has now apologized. So they wrote, "Making one final tweet to address some major things. The thread has been deleted and has been since this morning. I have only blocked those sending negative comments and threats with no constructive criticism since this morning. I have worked to apologize and unblock others." So I guess anyone that was like going against what they initially said was getting blocked. They continued, "I am doing this all while having to function as an adult doing my day-to-day things. Please forgive me for the time in which it is taking me to address this. After a rushed thread in the first place, the last thing I want to do is give a half-assed apology. I would like to once again extend my genuine apologies to the zoo, the handlers, and locals affected by my actions." It is also important to note that this person has in their bio that they are 22. So I think that is also, speaking of context, I think that's important context as well. I think we see this a lot where people end up like fighting with really young people online and you don't realize the age of the person that you're fighting with. And yes, 22 is an adult, but that's still a very young person. And it's really easy to get wrapped up in this like social justice warrior persona online when you're really young because everything feels really big and important. And it feels good to feel righteous, And I don't necessarily think that it's conscious, and we all get trapped in that. Absolutely. Like I get trapped in that on this podcast, when I report on certain stories for you guys, like it's very easy to get wrapped up in that because you think that it's going to give you the feedback that you crave, that validation. And so I think it can be easier to fall into that the younger that you are. So justice for the Khao Keo Zoo and no more slander for Moo Deng. Okay? And the last story that I have for you guys is that Wired just did a profile on Bobbi Althoff. And again, I feel like she's kind of niche. It's like similar to what I said about not the Real Housewives, the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Like, I don't know if any of you guys care about Bobbi Althoff, but like I do. I think she's such an interesting example of a TikToker who was like really random. Like, yes, she had a lot of followers, but she wasn't like famous or like well known. And she's been able to parlay that into such a, first of all, mainstream career in such a successful way and also a very lucrative career. So she did this very interesting interview with Wired and I took a few tidbits from it, but she seemed to be quite transparent. So first, she is openly dropping her really deadpan, awkward persona. And Jordy and I actually did an episode last year on like the rude, quote unquote, celebrity interview style and how that became really popular, especially among women recently. And the examples that we gave were Ziwei, Amelia de Moldenberg, and Bobbi. And our conclusion in the episode was that while that style can be really funny, Bobbi unfortunately doesn't seem to execute it well or as well as the other women, and therefore it doesn't really land, and it just kind of seems like she's just being mean to her guests and like she doesn't really want to be there. It doesn't seem like she's having fun with her content. So she said in this interview that it is a character and that character was like a manifestation of how uncomfortable she felt interviewing these huge celebrities on the podcast. And now she kind of doesn't need to maintain that persona anymore because it kind of helped her through this transition phase, which I actually think is interesting. I like that she got famous from that persona and has decided quite quickly to drop it. I think very often when it comes to success in the public eye, it can be like whatever makes you successful. I think we tend to hold on to that. And I like that she's like allowing herself to be fluid with that. I don't know. I thought that was interesting. Maybe I'm just like a Bobbi Althoff stan. I don't know. Moo Deng stan, Bobbi Althoff stan, Secret Lives of Mormon Wives stan. This podcast is just me talking about all my favorite things. She also said that she recently signed a deal to produce, write, and star in a TV comedy about her rise to fame. So again, another huge example of her being able to like parlay this really random niche internet fame into something mainstream and successful. And she also opened up about how much money she has made. She was tight-lipped about how much she currently makes. However, she was asked about TikTok and how TikTok brand deals work and how much money she makes. And she said that last July, she was making, quote, around $250,000 to $300,000 a year from brand deals on TikTok and the Creator Fund. I was doing pretty well for myself. I thought I had really made it. I didn't know there was a level above that. She then said to maintain that, you need to go consistently viral. And so she was making like 10 videos a day. And, that's just not sustainable. Like you can't have that many ideas. And that's unfortunately, for her account at least, that's how much she needed to be pumping out to like have the off chance of a video going viral or for all of her views to add up to continually make that amount of money. So she said she saw on TikTok a girl talk about a podcast that she was doing, like her podcast, and how she was making around $300,000 a year from the podcast. Can I just say, as somebody that has a podcast, I would say 0.05% of people are making $300,000 a year from their podcast, okay? Let me just say that. So she was like, okay, wow, that's what I need to do next. Like that will help alleviate some of the pressure from like how much I need to be posting on TikTok. So she didn't say how much she makes from her podcast, but I'm going to say it's I'm going to say it's at least $300K, especially given the guests that she has. And she also did talk about like the industry plant allegations. I mean, I think we all know she's not an industry plant at this point, but her podcast and the caliber of guests she was getting like seemed so unbelievable. And it is unfortunate that like she did have this internet fame and it was niche, but she still had it. And it is unfortunate that, we didn't believe her. Like we didn't believe that she could just like get these guests by asking them to come on her podcast when she felt like a no-name podcaster. And so everyone's like, she's an industry plant. She's sleeping with her guests, like saying all these like horrible misogynistic things about her when in reality, and she's talked about it before, but she said it in this interview too. Like I literally just DM'd the like most famous people that followed me and asked if they would come on my podcast. And honestly, a lot of them said yes. So that's basically how she did it. And, she is also represented. She has a talent agent, or she's part of a talent management company. I forget what, maybe CAA or UTA or something. And, they rep a ton of celebrities. So I'm sure there are some negotiations that go back and forth between like her manager and the celebrities managers and things like that if they're part of the same agency. But regardless, that's basically how she did it. And she's like, I'm just like a hard worker. And I think what this interview gave me was that if you don't ask, you won't get. Like she is very money driven and she's very open about that in the interview. She says, I'm always thinking about money. Like that's how she drives her career. She is actually a great example of someone who's been able to turn like nothing into something. And it's because she just had the audacity to ask. And if there's one thing that I can leave you with on this Thursday as a female founder, it is have the audacity of a mediocre white man. That will get you so far in life. I am trying to embody that every single day on my solo founder journey. It is hard, but it honestly works. Just ask for what you want. A little bit of inspiration to leave you guys with for this weekend. All right, guys, thank you so much for listening to Mini Scroll. I love you guys. There will be a deep dive tomorrow, and then I will be back on Tuesday. All right, bye.